I seek refuge in God, the Most High, from the accursed Satan. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, and in the end of the 2 days, and prayers and peace be upon Muhammad and his good and pure family. O God, may God's blessings and peace be upon Muhammad and his family and hasten relief. In this episode of Dialogue with Atheists, there are a set of questions that we must consider. The first question that must be asked is whether this world had a beginning or did it not have a beginning. This is a question that the human mind and thought continue to ask until it finds an answer. However, God asked whether this world had a beginning or had no beginning. It does not occur to anyone that this question is new. No, it is a new and old question. When you look closely at human thought, you will find that this is one of the questions that has never left man. When you return to the book of knowledge and the existence of God. This book is one of the books that I advise dear people to own this book or have in their hands to read. Science and the Existence of God, John Lennox. The title, Science and the Existence of God, is a very important subtitle, which some claim. Did science kill belief in the existence of God? Now there are claims that the natural sciences have enriched us from the hypothesis of the existence of God. Natural science says that you want to explain it by the necessity of the existence of a creator, a God, and God for this world. Science cannot answer these same questions that you are asking. In this book, My Consolation, on page 114, he says that the question of whether the universe had a beginning is of fundamental importance to the history of thought. In fact, it does not occur to me that this question can be bypassed due to the consequences it entails. Throughout history, many opinions have been put forward. Plato saw such and such, Orestes saw such and such, the Hebrews said a little, and the Greeks said such and such, etc., as many answers, God willing, as dear. This question, my dears, has a clear, general answer. As it is said, its answer is one of two answers, or a separate, true answer. Either the world had a beginning. I mean, it wasn't then it was. Or the world had no beginning. Two answers, not a third. This means that this question is one of the questions that does not allow for multiple answers. Because some questions may have 20 or 30 answers. This question is one of those questions for which there are only two answers. It means separate and real, as he says, it revolves between the affirmative and the negative, either it has a beginning or it has no beginning. Now, the history of these two answers also throughout history does not come to your mind. Now there are two answers. Also when you refer to this book. I am in the most precious year to start reading from this book. Science and the Existence of God. On page 115, Dear ones, I would like the dear ones to come back, he finds. That basically there are many who say that the universe is infinite in terms of its age and breadth. This is a saying that says that the world has a beginning or does not have a beginning. It has no beginning because it is infinite. From the middle of the 19th century, this idea began to come under increasing pressure to the point that it completely lost its coherence. So it turns out that in some centuries we find that the possibility of what is strengthened. That this world had no beginning. In later centuries we find the natural sciences moving to the theory that the world must be the natural world. It must have a beginning. This is because the belief in the beginning of the universe has once again become the opinion of most contemporary scientists. Of course, with the evidence and sources mentioned, they are allegations. Some evidence is based on redshift. It means that the world is expanding in the expansion of this expansion, and that we are expanded, as in the Quranic text. This expansion reveals to us that it has what it reveals to it, that it has a beginning. Thus, dear people who come to page 120 of the book, he says that there is currently general agreement that the universe had a beginning. Senior figures are now saying, and perhaps it is an agreement, that the world has what to do with it beginning. Now, after that comes this question. Good question. What is the difference between these two answers? If we tell him the beginning, what is its difference from the saying that says what has no beginning? I would like these questions to be examined, pondered by a person until he knows the results. If we say that the world has no beginning, that it is eternal, and that we do not reach a stage in the length of time and the lifespan of time, then the world would not have existed. So is there any meaning in asking what is the cause and cause that you found? Or this question has no meaning? Wrong question this. If someone asked who created this world, they looked at me well. If someone asks after accepting that the world is infinite, eternal, whoever created this question is correct because of his mistake, my dears. Here I would like you to pay attention to a basic observation. My dear ones, the question has two aspects. A question that must be answered. It is a question that cannot be answered. What is the difference between them? That is, if the question is correct, there must be an answer. If the question is wrong, does he have an answer or does he not have an answer? He has no answer. That's why don't bother answering. Build him wrong. What? Question error. My dear ones, pay close attention to this issue because I wanted a result. Some questions in themselves are valid and require what? This book was not here in the morning. My dear ones. Here. Now we found what? Here. We have the right to ask why or how the book became what? Here. Where did he come here from? But if something is from eternity, this is its place. Do I have the right to ask how the book came here? Or I don't have the right to do so? I don't have the right to do this. The question is wrong. They turn to me. If we accept that the world had no beginning, do we have the right to ask then who created the world? Or we are not entitled? We are not entitled. Why? Because what needs a creator, an agent, and a creator? Which didn't exist. If it exists, it is an attainment, as it is said, what? To sum up. What does he want to exist? He exists. What do you want to exist that? I don't know if this meaning is clear. So if we accept that the world is eternal, it has no beginning. So we must ask who created him. Or we are not entitled. Not entitled. The question is what? It is true and there is no answer to it. Or ask what? Mistake. Will you come with us? This book is one of Stephen Hawking's last books, My Consolation. Stephen Hawking. Who is this physicist who is crippled? This is my condolences photographer. One of his most recent books is this book, My Consolation. Stephen Hawking. Great design. New answers to the universe's biggest questions. In this book, he said that we do not need to assume that there is a creator for this world. Science tells us what? On this question. On page 206 of the book. He says some of them may claim that the answer to these questions. What is the question? Why does something exist instead of nothing? That is, if it is non-existent and it is found. Why did he find it? Says this question. Some of them may claim that the answer to this question, that there is a God who chose to create the universe in this way. Some people don't answer. He says then he needs a reason, and the reason is what it is. Machine. Now this God is a world that is not a world, a body that is not a body. This is not our research. But the existence of a force. Power. Incident or azalea. The answer. If it was an accident, we have the right to ask what? Who found it? Okay. But if we assume that it is what? Azalea. Is it correct to ask who created it, or is it not correct? Wrong question. Pay attention to the problem that he, King Maulana, fell into. He says it is reasonable to ask who or whom created the universe. But if the answer is God, then the question will be transformed, depending on who created God. This question is true to false. The answer is no. If we say that this Creator God is an event like the universe, we need to ask what? Who created this God? And this he said. But if it is proven to be what? Eternal, yet whether we are entitled or not. This is the fallacy that led to who King Maulana, which is that this question never ends with an answer. I don't know if we are able to deliver the request to the dear ones or not. This is a fundamental issue that must be paid attention to. So, if we say that the world had no beginning, then it is not correct to ask what? Who created the world? Why? Because it is eternal, because it has no beginning. But if it is for the world, for this reason, God willing, after that, I will address the theoretical atheist. Because in the previous research we distinguished between the theoretical atheist and the practical atheist. I ask my question. I say you are the one who says you are an atheist. Which one do you choose? Do you choose that the world had a beginning? Or choose that world what? Eternal and without beginning. He must answer us. He cannot say neither one nor the other. Because that's what they say. The rise of extremes or the meeting of extremes. And he accepts. The wisest among them accepts this. He couldn't deny it. As we said in the study of the theory of knowledge, if the dear ones remember. What if the world had a beginning? Here there is a hypothesis. The first hypothesis is that he found the world without an agent. It means the glory of the world without an agent and without a creator. I mean, coincidence. I do not say that this reason is materialistic or merely worldly or non-worldly. No, no, no. I'm not talking about what. He has an active principle or found what. This world. This coincidence means that if the scientist finds an event without a cause at all, it is expressed as absolute coincidence. In exchange for what? By relative coincidence. Absolute coincidence, my condolences, the agreement of the word of investigators and scientists is that it is what? Impossible. Both material and non-material. From unified and non-unified. From atheist and non-atheist. And then I will show you. Those who insist that there is no creator are insisting that the world had no beginning. Why? Because they turned around, if they accepted that the world had a beginning, they must accept what? Is this just a world? And the existence of a God? There is a creator. That's why he gets disgusted when you tell him what the world is like. It has a beginning. Because immediately if it had a beginning, you would ask what? How was it found? Or air-conditioned? Why was it found? How is it related to something else? I don't know if it's clear or not. If I know. Absolute fluke. It is the existence of something. From nothing. No. From nothing. What does it mean for something to happen? If he has a God, then he is a thing. But if he doesn't have it, accept that. If there is something out of nothing, it's nothing. What is so that there is what? Something. And so you find investigators. Let us consider our relative coincidence. Relative coincidence. A friend of our Lord. 5 years ago, 10 years ago. If you don't see Maulana. And you don't know where our Lord has gone. One day you invite your friend to invite our Lord. When you first get to the door. Find that friend. No previous death or anything like that. This coincidence, if not a coincidence. This coincidence. What is it called? This is relativity. This is not a meaning found without a subject. I found that friend because of him, and you came because of another reason. But they met what was in it. This time was for no reason. This is no problem. Brothers who want to read this meaning. On the logical foundations of induction. To the martyr, my dears. In the Research Center. It means the Research Center edition. There on page 57. He says. There are two parts to coincidence. Absolute and relative. And the divorced woman. There is something else. There must be a set of times. And there are a bunch of times. Why? Because he believes that this world is an accident that had a beginning. It may or may not have been found by chance. Not possible. Never. As you say. This is the traditional questions. There must be a set of times. It must have been found by chance or it may not. Never. So we need the hypothesis of the existence of God to prove that this world has a creator or we don't. Why? Because philosophy and so on. Taftul is good. This is what he says in this book, and I will show where the problem is. As for before that. I mean, before he arrives. I mean, there is history in previous books' summary of time. A more brief history of time. Black holes. And the collection of books he confiscated. Who from Hawking Maulana. Look what his theory is. I believe that the Ezet memorized these words clearly. In this book that we referred to, which is the knowledge of the existence of God, on page 109, my condolences. Memorize this phrase so you know what he says. He says in a meeting, he says he confessed in a meeting, you are the physicist, and the source mentions him. This means that the link exists and people can refer to it. It is difficult to discuss the beginning of the universe without mentioning the concept of God. What can? If we accept that the world is what? It has a beginning. Whether we like, what is included in the concept of the Creator? Online. Why? Because the existence of something without a reason is reasonable and unreasonable. Unreasonable. This is my condolences. The second phrase, my condolences, on page 100, is, my condolences. He says he writes saying, the usual scientific method that relies on building a mathematical model cannot answer the question of why the universe exists. Mathematics can answer this question or it cannot. Tell me why you can't. Why does the universe exist in the first place? Is the unified theory? Or do you need a creator? If we accept that the world had a beginning, we need what? The hypothesis of the creator comes whether we like it or in between. Dear ones, for the 10th time I repeat. What am I talking about, God, Muslims? I am not talking about God, Christ, or the Jews. Or the Greek God or the Greeks. No, no, no. I am talking about an eternal force. Eternal eternity. That's it. Scientist or non-knowledgeable. We said this is related to its characteristics. Not now we are talking as it is said in Kant done. It means in the origin of its existence, not in its attributes or in its actions. Likewise, my dear ones, on page 116, my dear ones, of the book. This is his statement, my dears. Clearly and frankly. Stephen Hawking takes a similar view. Many people do not like the idea that time had a beginning. They say it's okay as soon as you tell her that time has happened and that the universe has happened. He says why? He says perhaps because it carries within it the hypothesis of divine intervention. This is not a solution. Not like that. There is no solution. Go back and say this is what he says to my God, meaning the God of the Muslims. There is no God of the Shiites, no God of Ibn Taymiyyah. He did not work in the attributes of the Creator. But the origin of what? The eternal origin of power. Hence, as I said to Al-Azza, there is an insistence on the part of atheists to say what? The world has a beginning or it has no beginning. Why? Because if he says it, he is forced to adhere to one of his requirements. He must adhere to what the world knows. It has a beginning. See the names of a group of those who insist that the world had no beginning. So and so among those who reacted as follows says, the idea that there is a beginning to the current order of nature, this man expresses this endogenous. But I do not know these words, as you have said many times. My condolences are I do not know them. He says it's a disgusting idea. Why disgust and provoke him? Why? Because if it is accepted that it is a beginning, then what will answer the second question? I would prefer to find another alternative to it. Just do not say that the world had a beginning. Save us from this question, because if we commit, we must commit. Among other famous scholars who find the idea of a beginning repulsive is Sir John Maddox, the editor of So and So, who declared that the idea of a beginning is completely unacceptable. For him. Why? He said because it implies a divine origin for our world. There is no solution. Make-o solution. Of course, there are necessarily places. This is who says God sees. Intended eternal principle. He turned around. It gives creationists a justification and impact for their beliefs. This is why they advise atheists. What if you join those who believe in the existence of God? How much do you read? The world had a beginning. Because once you acknowledge this, then what? I fell into loss. Take care in you. Ironically, some are in Karka and advance to last. This is my research. Here are 2 facts. Our main question is, who was isolated? For the atheist. Now a question here we ask, who was an atheist? Theoretical atheist. Not practical. He who says I don't care does not exist for him. I live like what? This is as if it might exist. Hey, you don't care what the other wants to take care of. What's the problem? This is such a personal issue. I'm talking now about some theory. Oh, atheist, what do you say? How much atheist? Which theoretical atheist? Do you say that the world has a beginning or that the world has no beginning? What do you think he answers? In our expression, the principles, choose whatever you want, we will prove to you that it exists too. Some people are in a hurry and say, Sir, look. He said, is there evidence for the existence of God or not? Now there is no evidence of the existence of God. When does he stay? Now, this, Maulana, is a token of evidence for the proven existence of God. That is, what does it say that the world had a beginning? He is obligated to what? With my proof. Active. These statements are bigger. I am one of those who brought the Maulid. If we accept that the world has a beginning, then there must be an agent. In our expression, we in philosophy express it most effectively. To call it creator is to call it creator. Call it whatever you want. To call it God's intervention. What this terminology does not affect. That is if you accept. We said that most of the natural, physicists, and chemical scientists now say that the world is what it is, especially the astronomy of our Lord. They say that the world is especially keen on the Big Bang theories of physics. They say this theory is valid. If there is no agreement on it, be aware of it. One of the theories proposed, yes, is more likely than the rest of the theories. But this proves that the world is what? It has a beginning. So what does he need? To a creator and to a cause. Is the requirement proven or the requirement not proven? Prove what is required. Prove what is required. Because now we are not about to neglect to prove the monotheism that the commander of the faithful said. This is the unification of the Shiites, Maulana. We are not going to prove the monotheism that Ibn Taymiyyah said. This is the monotheism of Salafism, Maulana. He didn't count it. We are not about to prove the monotheism that Christians say is our Lord or Christ. 1 in 3 3 what in 1. This has another hadith. We are not in the presence of Yazdan Arima Maulana Azarado. We are never going to prove that this world has a principle. If it is proven that it was an accident, then it has a principle. Yes, now if you accept this we can enter. What are his characteristics? What are his actions? Is he a scientist or not a scientist? Is it fair or not fair? Is he wise or not wise? Is he the ruler of the world or the chaos of the world to others, as the Mutazilites say? They said that God created the world and the chaos of his command led to a world. Create. If it were not, its absence would not harm the existence of the world. The Mutazila say this. And we have mentioned it in detail in our books, Tawhid and Not Aziz. We are now going to detail the origin of the issue, and if he says the second, which I imagine reassuring him, any atheist who knows the buildings, knows the pitfalls, and knows the traps he has fallen into, what will he choose? Does he choose to have a beginning or not to have a beginning? He has no beginning until he gets rid of the need for what? We ask him, is he who has no beginning eternal or not? If he says he is not eternal, then he has contradicted himself because you said he is eternal and has a beginning. Is it intelligible or incomprehensible? It is not possible to combine the two extremes. What does it mean? This means that it has a beginning and has no beginning. This does not come together. So you do not want to accept that it has no beginning. So you believed in an eternal existence that needs a creator, or does it not need a creator? This is what we say. We said nothing but anything. We who say God exists, we say, existent exists. What? An eternal existence. Well, you say that this eternal existence is nature and matter. I say that this eternal existence is what it is. Existent, distinct from matter. Otherwise, in the concept, do we agree or disagree? At the root of the issue, do we agree or disagree, dear? There is an eternal principle in which the atheist and the believer have no escape. It is not possible to believe in this, except to discuss some of these premises that I pointed out and are acceptable to them. This is why, according to Gorish Tarabishi's sentence in the Arab Philosophical Encyclopedia, my dear second volume, the editor-in-chief, Dr. Manziyada, my dear Al-Taftali, he says, well, whether it is on page 174, whether the first principle is intended by the first, what is it? I mean, he who has no beginning, unless we say he has a beginning, then what do they need? So they need a creator. You say the first principle means the one who has no beginning, meaning eternal. So whether the first principle is matter, as the philosophers of the 18th century have, or it is energy, as the scientists have in the 19th century, or it is freedom, as the existentialists have in the 20th century, meaning Sarah is the one who followed his school, the first principle remains first and a priori, it remains what? Does it need a creator or does it need a creator? Yes, the difference is whether you say nature or energy, matter, or what. Or God does not differentiate this. This is another study. He said an a priori for him, and that is in another name. The God of faith. These are those who believe in God. These are those who believe in the existence of a principle or no beginning for it. No beginning. A principle that has no beginning. You say matter is the principle that has no beginning. There is no problem in it. It occurred at the time. There is no problem. We say, establish your evidence that it is matter. It is matter only. But if we are able, God willing, in subsequent research, we will provide you with evidence that this first principle cannot be matter. Then, if you discuss evidence or come with evidence for evidence, is there a solution for the human mind to get rid of the hypothesis of the existence of an eternal principle, or it cannot have such a design? Do you tell me who designed it? I say you say nature. I say what God. This is another difference. This you say to me. Between me and God with Darwinian evolution we have arrived here. I tell you what. No. What are you saying? Darwinian. I say what are you telling me? Between me and God with Darwinian evolution. We have arrived here. I tell you what. No. God created me and me. What in this way? This is another issue. This is another matter. This has nothing to do with the origin of my issue, that there is an eternal force and principle that has no beginning. You're done. Point at the beginning of the chest. I don't know, the issue is clear. This is the first evidence for the hypothesis. Until now I say, tell me, sir, why the hypothesis is so exhausting. Say that before setting up the evidence. We must say existence, if we say hypothesis. We must say a hypothesis. The hypothesis of the existence of God. Because if you saw the address that he told me on the site. Dialogue with Atheists, is there evidence of the existence of God? Some also objected and said, why did Sayyid Naql Ali die and wake up? It means there is no worry. First of all, we are internal until we enter, what? What does it mean to assume that I exist and enter and it stops for me to search? This is time between me and God. After what? There is scientific research or there is not. No, I am all about the stick. I want to tell you whether you accept the hypothesis of the existence of God. Is it a rational hypothesis or does it mean a hypothesis after evidence, a stable hypothesis or a failed hypothesis? Will you please tell me why you are doing this, because there are now some contemporary atheists who have written about the existence of God as a failed hypothesis. And God willing, I will answer the book for you and see through which way he wants to approach this. It's clear. So, my dear, in the words of George Tribishy, he says, it is in the name of the last God of the Germans. This is why he was always found among the Yemenis. It means those who believe in the existence of God or in the existence of God. Who says that atheism is also a kind of faith? It does not represent that you imagine that through atheism you have achieved what? From faith. No, 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 atheism is also one of the beliefs of what? One of the examples of belief in the existence of eternal power. One last question to finish the research. One last question, Isaiah. Let me obey you well, Yemen. That is, the natural sciences can answer a question: why did the universe exist and why it did not or could not remain as it was from nothingness. In conclusion, this question. If the dear ones remember, we read from Hawking, Maulana. What is the original question? This original question. My dear ones. Which is what? And he turned around. Where does it really come from? Did the universe need a creator or not? In other words, on the dear friend's page, come with us on this page. He says that you do not find out why the universe existed, why something exists instead of nothing. Why do we exist? Why this set of laws and not what? Without other laws. Now there are laws that govern existence or there are not. Why did existence not exist in some way? In another way. Another form. Another system. Why? These are the questions we need to answer. This is a resource for my dear ones who say it, damn it if they reply. As well as knowledge and the presence of God, my consolation on page 72. This research there is evaluated and detailed, my dears. Refers to these basic questions that exist. These are such and such questions. Likewise, on page 120 of the book, my condolences, these are the basic questions that are raised. It is the beginning of this universe. A question. Spin well. A question. Who will answer the question, why did the universe exist? Science or philosophy? Now you told me that he is our master, you say philosophy. But natural scientists what? They do not agree. We are the ones who speak to those who are not on the side of the believers. Because he may be on the side of the believers and side with the theory of philosophy. We are going to my dear ones. To the same king, Maulana. What is in this book says there is no need to assume the existence of a creator. Asa found her on the Come With Us page. On page 2 dead and 6. Look at the phrases. He says that the laws of nature tell us how the universe behaves. It means answering the question of why or answering the question of how. How? But it doesn't answer the question why. These are the questions we put at the beginning of this book. What are the questions? Why is there something? Why we exist? Why this set of laws? Knowledge has the ability to answer, or it does not have an amazing ability. Hence, my dears, in previous research, we discussed it in detail. When I asked the question about why and the question about what? About how? How does something exist? You ask about its quality and laws. As for why? About what exists before existence. Hence we said that there is only effectiveness and cancellation. It means the doer of the thing and the purpose of the thing. This goes into why. As for what are the laws that govern? This goes where? In Kifa. This meaning, Rasul Maulana is an expert in these fields. Come with us to the messengers of our Lord. Look what this man has to say about this. I really want to. Today I don't have time to read it to you all. He says but to say. But to say, for example, that as long as science cannot tell us the reason. Science knows until it says this. But it is also fair to say that Russell, although he wrote those phrases, he quickly said that most of the messengers of our Lord. He tells us what he says. He tells us that some important questions about the universe lie outside the scope of science. Oh questions dear. Ha! These are related questions. With the material. A name related to science. Is the world divided for a purpose or for no purpose? Are there really laws of nature to say? Is there a method? These questions have no answers in laboratories. So science can answer and it cannot. He can't. And God willing, modern knowledge. Modern science. He says we necessarily need philosophy. Natural science. Natural science. In the 18th century. In the 19th century. They were saying we should do without what? About philosophy. But in the late 20th century. And the beginning of the 21st century. Maulana. Now natural science says there is no way except what? Except philosophy. This meaning is clear. Clearly now. This guy says here. If this statement that he said after his book The Great Design, after philosophy died, was on my chest, is correct, why is it correct? And this strange thing, on one page, says, philosophy is dead. On page 2, 6, he says that this science does not answer. What? What does this mean? What is the contradiction at the beginning of the book? And at the end of the book? He says these were traditional questions for philosophy. But philosophy has died and its steadfastness has not been preserved by the developments of modern science, especially the field of physics. Scientists are the ones who carry the torches of discovery in the journey of exploration beyond knowledge. This book aims to provide the answers imposed by the amazing discoveries. Very sad, my dear. Einen in 2 Dead and 6 Why do you say that the laws of nature do not answer the question why? After who answers the question of what? Why? But I believe the problem he fell into is that if God created the universe, who created what? This is also his problem. Dugens Milano, now, God willing, in the illusion of God, I will answer you. He says this series, what do we solve? You may say that God created the world. He is the creation of God. It is God's creation. This group assumes that all of them are what they are. Incident. Although it is accepted that matter is both a matter and a non-occurrence. Not an accident. Because why does someone who reaches the God of Muslims have a God I do not know, religions have a God I do not know, religions and other groups? What do you suppose? Incident. Until you ask that it is his creation. If you say no, he is eternal, then your question, who created his soldiers? The question is wrong. What I know is clear here. So what you get here is that it is basically a requirement of rational analysis. Unless the other party says these mental templates, I do not agree with them. You have the right to tell me what mental stereotypes I am. This is the mental basis that I do not agree with. So there is still a bridge between you and me for dialogue and research, or there is not. No, I don't have anything for you. This is the well-known sentence of Ibn Sina, if someone doubts everything, how do you know? So you took Ida and put it where? In the fire. If he starts screaming, why are you hurting me? Tell him that is there a difference between pain and pain? What do you think you are? It's burning. Otherwise, what are you? Because for you, the meeting of two opposites is possible. Maybe. The height of the extremes is possible for him, what is possible? Maybe. So what do you? Imagine you are. Don't burn. What a kasham, what a kasham. Rather, he might say, let me not be deluded. Oh, I'll be delusional. And for this dear, there is no way, no way. I mean I told you. Now I say that I do not know about the faults of scientific research. The least human is determined that he has the ability to deny the principle that it is infinite or impossible. Not possible. Designed that way. Now this designer is God, you and I say. With our evidence. You say what? Nature and matter have evolved over billions of years, from 1 billion years to another. Important problem. The important thing is that there is an eternal principle. Yes, you have the right to demand from me at the later stage. So this is the eternal principle that we agreed exists. Is he alive or what? Rigid. Does he have a life or what support do he hope for me or from him? You have the right to ask, and we want to answer. If it is one life or two worlds, is it just or unjust? I must prove it. If he is alive, he is knowledgeable, fair, capable, and incapable. I must prove it. If all of these qualities are wise or frivolous. I imagine most of the questions that confuse atheists who say they are atheists. It turns out that they are the most atheist and theoretical atheist, Maulana. There is no theoretical atheist named. What exists? With scientific accuracy, there is no theoretical atheist. No, 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 no. That's research. No, he wants to deny it. No, no, that is not in this sea, my dear. If they turn to me. So the principle of denying the principle. This is possible or not possible. Their original problem, dear, is the issue of wisdom. They say, this is the one you say is alive, knowing, capable, hearing, seeing, just, compassionate, and merciful. Wait a minute, why do we see these earthquakes, these diseases, these evils, and these wars? God willing, it is a well-known issue in the world. The question of evils is not the question of consolatory principle. The question of evils is the action of this principle. These people mixed up the search for the origin of the principle with the search for what is in the actions of this principle. Yes, no, we who say wise must answer, what about the evils in the world? But if we deny that he is wise, let the whole world be afflicted with evil. Why? Because if you find this person sane, he will take off all his clothes and walk naked in the street. Do you object or do you not object to it? But if he is delinquent, do not object. Why? Because that question, why did you do this, is ugly to anyone who is sane. But if he does not have the mind, this question is valid if it comes to us. Ah, to open well. If I then prove that he is wise, I will explain to you the meaning of wisdom. You do not imagine wisdom, meaning human wisdom. So they fall into the fallacy again. Imagine the wise man. What does the wise principle mean to man? But in its place, it will prove that this principle is not effective. Why? Because this has some characteristics that we do not have. I mean, there's nothing like it. His qualities cannot be measured against the qualities of humans or any other entity. If all of this fallacy, or God willing, is revealed one by one, God willing, we will stop at it. Next week, God willing, we will delve into the evidence to prove this principle. And every piece of evidence can be proven. Look, let's see, there may be evidence of Asa, God willing. This is only presented for research. There may be evidence that proves the principle, but it does not prove that it is alive or not alive. As it is said, the middle term proves the existence of the principle. As for his life, he needs independent evidence. There may be other evidence to prove that it is a revealed principle. But it does not prove that he is a scientist. We need more evidence. So every guide must have certain limits. We see how much evidence this proves of this principle. Praise be to God, Lord of the worlds.